even though I am diagnosed with things that maybe I don't always want to have, I have to show the world that we don't get to pick and choose what we have thrown at us. We just have to use it to the best of our ability, and we have to figure it out along the way.
This podcast is supported by StoriedWork.com. Do you ever struggle to get your thoughts written down in a clear and structured way? I often do. And when I'm planning my podcast scripts or articles, I have so many ideas in my head and I struggle to get them organized in writing. With Storied, all I need to do is speak in my thoughts and the tool automatically organizes my ideas. I love it because it provides feedback and prompts me to fill in any gaps to make my message crystal clear. Storied was founded by a dyslexic physicist who needed a new kind of tool to write. What their team discovered was that seeing your thoughts and ideas turn into clearly structured text unlocks potential for almost everyone. If you're having trouble translating your thoughts into clearly written content, such as articles or social posts, try Storied for free. Go to StoriedWork.com. Have you ever faced something in your life that seemed to set you apart from everyone else? Are you faced with barriers and obstacles that others put on you because of your condition? Hey, Tim here, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Invisible Condition podcast, where we talk about advocacy and unusually normal things, the conditions, diseases, and illnesses we live with. We will end the stigma of invisible conditions by empowering voices, and today's voice is brought to us by Lindsay. Lindsay lives with autism, and her outlook on life is something that I am striving for. She has overcome so many fears and obstacles in her life, and she's so determined, it's beyond inspiring. Lindsay wants to live in a world where she isn't labeled, where she's given a chance and is seen for the person she is. Now imagine that, a world where there is no stigma. Lindsay is on a mission and to use her condition as an advocate for those who need it. Have a listen. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me. We've been reworking the schedule a few times to get this scheduled, and I've known you. I knew you when you were little because my sister used to babysit you back in our hometown, and here we are now on a podcast. How cool is that?
Yes, it's super cool. And then I actually used to babysit your sister's kids too.
I know, it's amazing. When I told my sister that you're coming up on the podcast, she was super excited. I'm super excited. Why don't we just jump right into it? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about yourself and your diagnosis, and how you've embraced your diagnosis in your life and in your career.
I'm Lindsay, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 11 years old, but I felt my world changing when I was 9, and I was actually misdiagnosed a few times growing up with autism because a lot of people didn't know what autism was, and I was born in 1999, so it wasn't that common as it is today. And so people probably knew I had autism, but because there wasn't a lot of diagnoses yet, it took a while for me to get diagnosed. And I was diagnosed at the BC Children's Hospital in Vancouver.
And so you were diagnosed when you were quite young, and you said you noticed your world changing when you were 9. Can you describe that a little bit to us?
I felt like I couldn't really fit in with my peers, and I kind of felt like, I don't want to say I was different, but I just felt like I just couldn't fit in, and everyone was succeeding so much faster than I was, and I just felt like I could look at others, and I just didn't feel like I was at the same place that they were, and it took me a long time not to be able to, judge myself or to just get caught up, because a lot of times I compare myself to others, so I learned not to compare myself, and that was really hard, but I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, proud of you too. Like, comparing ourselves to others it's so common, right? We look at other people and we compare, the physical stuff. We compare maybe what they have. And I can imagine as a young person, as you said, not quite fitting in. How was that? How was that as you were growing up?
Well, I really felt almost like the oddball out. Like, I didn't really feel like I knew how to be one of the group, and I was really isolated a lot. I really felt like I just wanted to be in the corner by myself, listening to my music, and I watched the others have fun, but I was often picked last for sports, or I just didn't feel like I was always the top of the everything, and I wanted to be, but I didn't always feel like I could be a part of the group.
Hmm. Yeah, and so you went for a diagnosis. You were misdiagnosed a few times, and now you've got
Yes.
your autism diagnosis. And how had that diagnosis changed your life? How did that help you and your family and your parents as you were growing up?
Well, it kind of helped because it showed me that, even though I'm different, I'm not less, and it just helped me to see my world in a new way because a lot of times I felt like I was different, and so the diagnosis just really helped me to be able to express myself freely, and it actually helped me be able to understand myself and know what was going on and what was happening.
It's beautiful what you said. Different, not less.
Yes.
We are all different. I love that you said that because just because we're different doesn't mean we're less. And anybody who's listening to this, Lindsay said it, I'm saying it. You're not any less. You just happen to be living with something, perhaps. And so you've got your diagnosis. It's really helped drive some clarity in your life. Um, when we first connected a few months ago, I was really inspired by why you want to tell your story. Like, so what makes you want to tell your story now on a podcast and be open and vulnerable and throw it out there?
Well, for me, I really want to help inspire others on the autism spectrum that might not be able to speak for themselves. I really want to be an advocate and help people that, may not know how to speak or do things on their own because I am so proud of how far I've come. I have come so far, and looking back at how far I've come, I've broken down so many obstacles and barriers, and I just really want to help people that may not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want to help people see that I'm an advocate and that people can do anything they set their mind towards.
Yeah, and you do set your mind to things and get things done. Do you have a couple examples to share of some things that you've overcome?
Um, well, I have actually always wanted to work with kids, and so I used to baby your sister's kids, and now I'm actually working in a daycare. I have my ECEA certification, and I'm driving which on my own, and I have my N. And I actually just went to Grand Forks. I went through Kelowna, and so on my own, and I was so proud of myself because when I got my license, I was actually quite afraid to drive, and I just kept pushing past those barriers and obstacles and telling myself, even though I'm nervous, I can do anything I set my mind towards.
Yeah, so for those who are listening who aren't familiar with British Columbia or Alberta, yeah, that's quite a distance. That's quite a drive.
Yes, it's
And
a 3 or 4 hours.
wow. And so uh, you say you set your mind to something, and so many, including myself, if something seems hard, I just don't want to do it. I could think of 1,000 reasons why not to do it. And here you are, you're saying, you know what? I'm going to do it. What gives you that drive? What drives you to that accomplishment?
Well, actually, I didn't walk until I was 19 months old and I kept falling down. And then I just told myself, like, I have to make the best out of my life and I have to show myself that even if I fall, I have to get up stronger each time. And it really helped me to learn resilience and just show that even if I do fall down, I keep getting up and I keep trying different ways to succeed.
Yeah, resilience is a is a word that resonates with me as well, especially living with something that's invisible, and that keeping that mindset of I'm going to figure this out, or we're going to figure this out, and I'm going to push through, and I might not succeed, or might not ever succeed, and that's okay. But continue. I'm going to continue to drive forward and to push forward, and I really see that as kind of a theme for your life. And but you said something earlier on about being an advocate. What does being an advocate mean to you?
Um, Being an advocate to me means helping others that may not be able to see the best in themselves. I want to help be an example and a positive light for people that may have a hard time seeing, the way that they are. I want to help and inspire others by being an advocate.
Hmm. And you are. I follow you on Instagram. We're going to provide all your Instagram handle in the show notes as well as at the end of this episode. And you are right. It's even when we connected, you're not defined by your diagnosis. You're not putting limits on yourself. And maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that, because even living with Crohn's, I sometimes put limits on myself. I can't do something. I don't see you have that mindset. Is that correct?
Well, it took me a long time to get away from that mindset because I used to really define my autism, and then I thought, I am only I my autism only holds me back if I let it. And I need to show the world that even though I have autism, I can still do anything I set my mind towards, even if it takes me longer or I have to work harder towards my goals, because I often feel like I do have to work harder than the average population, but I still push myself and go for that, um, for what I want.
Yeah, you do, right? It's like you said, you uh, you've got your license. You drove here in
Yes,
Canada.
yes.
It's a graduated license process. You went through that learner stage, that novice stage, and you've set your mind to education. I want to help kids. I want to teach kids. And now you're working in a daycare. You got that education. And do you have any other goals? Anything else that is on the horizon for you?
I would eventually love to live on my own, like on independent living, like living in my own apartment or suite, or like, because right now I'm living in a basement suite, but I do have quite a bit of help, and I just want to live on my own where I can show the world that even though I have autism, I can still do anything.
Oh, I love that. When we connected, I mean, we connected, covered a lot of ground. And you said, even going back to that mindset shift from being negative to positive. And was there a definitive moment or a time in your life when it was, no, I need to move from that negative into that positive? And what led to that shift?
Well, I had a friend. We're not friends right now, but she really helped me open my eyes and see that even though I was so negative, it was up to me to make my the best out of my life. So even though I had this autism thrown at me or anxiety or anything that's going on, it's up to me to make that shift, and I have to put my best foot forward. And even though I am diagnosed with things that maybe I don't always want to have, I have to show the world that we don't get to pick and choose what we have thrown at us. We just have to use it to the best of our ability, and we have to figure it out along the way.
Yeah, what you said resonates with me, right? I didn't choose to have Crohn's disease. If I had to pick a
Yes, yes.
condition, it would
Hmm.
not be Crohn's disease,
No.
but it's what I've been given.
Hmm.
And you've been handed autism, and now you've taken that and say, okay, this is what I've been diagnosed with. What can I do now? What's next? Yeah. And I know,
And
oh,
it also helps me to open my eyes and see the world in a different point of view.
yeah. And are you able to describe that a little bit, that different point of view?
Yes, for me, it kind of feels like for my autism, it feels like there's a glass wall that I'm behind that I can see through, but I can't get to the other side. And I always feel like I am almost trapped. Like I can see things, but I always feel like I don't fit in sometimes because I always see what's going on, but it's hard for me to express and feel like just like everyone else. And I know everyone's different in their own unique ways, but I feel like it's harder for me to put myself out there or to fit in with the population.
I'm curious when you say fit in, and I hear that as well. I feel that. Um, what does that mean? What is it? I'm curious, and I'm throwing this question. It's way off script, but uh, what does it mean to fit in?
Well, for me to fit in, it just kind of means like just to feel like I belong sometimes, because sometimes with my autism, I can be different. I feel like not less, but different. And sometimes it makes me more vulnerable and just harder to feel like I can be a part of things, because even though I am a part of things, I just feel like people sometimes look at me or judge me because they know that I have autism, and so a lot of times they put a label on me before they even know me, or they judge a book by its cover and think, oh, because she has autism, she might not be as capable as they think that I am, or they know that I am, because I am vulnerable, but a lot of times people don't take the time to actually get to know how amazing I am. They just judge a book by its cover.
I wish we could say that we can change that, and it's hard, right? We look at
Yes.
someone, we pass judgment, right? There's that unconscious bias. It's called that when we see something and our minds are already making up an answer or a response to something. But for someone who has put that label on you, or who has maybe not allowed you to fit in, what would you say to them now?
Well, I just look at how far I've come and I say, I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so proud for pushing myself and moving past barriers and overcoming obstacles, and that's really what I focus on.
Yeah, that positive, right? And
Yes,
that's
yes.
what I get from you, is that positive mindset. There's seems like there's no room for negativity. Is that
No.
yeah.
And I always feel like there's always light to give, and I always try and be a light to others and help people to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because it can be hard, but I just need to show, because sometimes I can get down on myself, but I always try and show, even when I'm down on myself, I can help others by helping them in not to be down on themselves.
Yeah, we're human. There's bad days. It's not all good days. And
Yes.
what does a bad day look like for you?
Well, sometimes I can just get frustrated and just zone zone out, or just feel like I just want to be alone and not get things done, or have a schedule and not have the things done on my schedule, and just listen to my music all day long and just sit there and think about things, and that's when I know that I'm shutting down or frustrated.
So you recognize that too, right? So
Yes.
you know when you're going down, when you're
Yes,
going into that
yes.
negative path. And then do you have friends and family who say snap out of it, Lindsay, like, or is it yourself that say, "Hey, I'm on this pattern, I need to get out of it."
Well, I feel like it's a bit of both, but sometimes I feel like for me, I know when I get to that state, and I need a day or something just to think about things and then get back to where I was.
I hear you. So there's some days I haven't had one in a while. Maybe there's one coming up. I don't know, where I just wake up and I just tell my wife that I'm just having a really bad day, and I just want to cancel everything. Fulfill my obligations with work, and then just sit on the couch, watch Netflix, or read a book, or nap, or whatever. Just have those days. But what you said is also very important, which is to just recognize that and making sure that doesn't become a habit or a pattern, and get back into a different mindset. And you'd mentioned music plays a big influence on you. And
Yeah.
when my niece Jenna, who used to babysit, was on the podcast, she talked a lot about music as well. And so I'm curious, what are you listening to right now? And what is it about music that kind of gets you going?
Well, I listen to so many genres, but I really like the group called I Am They, and the song called Scars. It's a worship song, but it's really helped me to see that even though I have bad days, I can pull myself out, and it's really helped me just to focus on, even when I get down or I don't feel like the world is going to turn around or change or get better. I It's up to me to make that change, and sometimes when I hear a song, it puts me in a different mood, or the way I'm feeling, that's how I know what I'm going to listen to that day.
I'm going to have to go listen to it after this episode. So the song was called Scars by the band I Am They. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I'm excited to go and listen. You're absolutely right. Music, for me, I work from home. I'm often down in my office by myself. the music I listen to really kind of affects even the output of my work and affects my whole mood. And so if I'm listening to something that is angry or angsty or heavy or fast, it has an impact. And there's lots of studies that support how music affects us. And so
Yes.
so do you always have music playing? Is it always in the background?
Yes, I always have music playing, and sometimes I have my headphones on just if I need to figure out something, but a lot of times I always have music. Even at nighttime or during the day, I always have something going all the time. It really helps me a lot and helps me with my anxiety too, and just helping me to feel like I just can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you talked about music even when you were quite little, right? You'd sit there with your
Yes,
headphones
yes.
on, and so
Mhm.
it's had a massive influence. Are there other songs that have kind of influenced your life over the years?
There's so much music that I listen to, so sometimes it's hard for me to choose a song because I have so many songs, over like 15,000 songs on my Spotify, so it's hard for me to choose just one or two. So I listen to a lot of old classic rock or 80s music, or music just like music that's meaningful and that has a purpose, because I try and have good music, but sometimes if I listen to rap or hip hop, like I listen to all genres, but I feel like it really plays a role in how I feel that day.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of music. I love
Yes.
it. Yeah, maybe over time we'll put together a Lindsay's playlist. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure
Yes.
something
Yes.
out.
Mhm.
But I love that. And Lindsay, sharing your story openly and vulnerably takes a lot of courage. And I know you're open on
Thank
your
you.
Instagram account,
Yes.
and on a podcast it's a little different, right? We don't know who's listening. We don't know where it's gonna who this episode might affect. And I just really appreciate your honesty and your
Thank you.
vulnerability. Um,
Yes.
and I'm curious. So, anyone who's living with an invisible condition and feels called to share their story, what would you say to someone?
I would say to them, don't give up. Keep going even when you feel like things won't get better or that you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Keep going, because there will be a day where things will turn around. You just have to keep pushing towards what you want in life and don't give up.
Don't give up. A podcast I recently recorded had a very similar sentiment, which was "You matter," and it might not feel good now, but you matter and don't give up. I love that. The purpose of Invisible Condition, this project, this wild idea that I have, is about ending the stigma of invisible conditions. And you highlighted this as well, where people have looked at you and have immediately passed judgment, or have excluded you, or have thought differently of you. This is all stigma. How are we going to end this? How are we going to end the stigma?
I feel like we have to keep talking about it and keep educating and empowering others, because a lot of times people think before they even know what's going on, they just completely go to, this is what's happening. They need to sit down or actually engage in conversation and learn, not everyone is the same. We're all different, like snowflakes. And it really has to open people's eyes and help them to educate and empower themselves about that they can see that it's who they are.
Yeah, I like to say, I am my version of normal. I'm a normal
Yes.
person. You're a
Mhm.
normal person. We're all normal. There's no real definition of normal, in my opinion. And this is my normal, and my normal is different than yours, and yours is different than somebody else's. And I think it's, I can echo what you say, and I know we talked about this too. And when we first met, was, yeah, we need just to be kind. Let's let's think before we speak. It's something that you said that really resonated with me before, when we were planning out this episode, was just pause, think before you
Yes.
speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And think before you speak. And also another one for me is treat others the way you want to be treated, because it's really important to think, would you want like someone to do that to you? And if you don't, then maybe you should think twice. And if you want to be treated nicely. For me, you get what you give, or you get what comes around. So you really have to put in the best foot and treat others the way you want to be treated, because it will all come back to you eventually.
Absolutely. And, we all have a different path in this life. We've all had different starts. We all have different middles, and we're all going to have a different end. And that doesn't define us.
No.
It can empower us to drive
Hmm.
change. And so, if you could wave a magic wand, and if there's one thing that you could change in society in relation to invisible conditions, in your case, autism, what would it be?
I just think that something for me would be that others would give me a chance and actually before they judge that I'm vulnerable, they would just take the time to get to know me and see how amazing people with autism are.
It's been such a pleasure to get to know you over this past few months, or reconnect with you. I mean, we connected when you were quite little, and you watched my sister's kids, and here we are on a podcast. And so I'm just so grateful for you, Lindsay, and for you just being an outspoken advocate. And so I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this podcast.
Yeah, and if you are listening and you're inspired by Lindsay, I know I am. I'm kind of feeling a little choked up today, and quite emotional just hearing your story. Lindsay, where could people reach you? Where could people find you?
Well, I love Instagram, so the best place to find me would be at Inspiring Essentials on Instagram. I love that page, and I'm always on Inspiring Essentials, so you can always send me a direct message or comment on any of my posts about autism, and I would just love if you came over and followed me there.
Awesome. And so Inspiring Essentials, we'll have
Yes.
that in the show notes as well. So we'll have a direct link to your Instagram there. Um, Again, Lindsay, thanks for coming on. And for those who are listening, I know you're inspired by Lindsay. I know you're inspired by the work of Invisible Condition. Would you do me a favor? If you're listening, can you forward this on to your friends, your family? Can you let people know about what we're doing at invisiblecondition.com? That would mean the world to me. I'd also love it if you're able to subscribe to the newsletter. It goes out every couple weeks. It's full of good stuff. It's not spammy. It's not long. It's just meant to really help encourage us to end this stigma of invisible condition. And lastly, if you have the financial means to donate to the publication of Invisible Condition, to the production of episodes like this, head over to invisiblecondition.com/donate. And I am super grateful for those who already have and for those who are considering as well. So, Lindsay, thanks again for coming on. I don't think this will be the last we've heard from you, and I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you. You too.